Hi, I am Lucas, and welcome to Abstract Essay, where ideas take shape, thoughts find depth. Every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. He's a men's action life coach, no other than Mr. Maxim Shapiro. Welcome to Abstract Essay, Mr. Maxim. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Sure. So I work with men and I help men get into action in their lives, connecting to their purpose and their authenticity.
Authenticity indeed. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, Mr. Maxim, what does action based coaching mean to you, and why is it particularly effective for men?
Well, men are people of action in our best form. And so we need to get into action. Coaching, at the end of the day, is all about action. There is no coaching without action. If you're coaching someone and it's not leading to action in their everyday life, then you're not actually doing the full act of coaching. And men are action oriented creatures. We need to be in action to feel good about ourselves. And also, to feel good about ourselves, we need to be in action in a way that's connected to our authenticity.
Men are men. Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Maxim, for empowering men all over the world. How do you redefine success for male clients beyond traditional metrics?
So, a lot of my clients have been working for a long time and they've accomplished a lot, but they might not feel as much fulfillment from those accomplishments as they thought they would because they haven't been connected to their true self or as connected as they could be. And the more we connect with our own authenticity, the more fulfillment we're going to get from our actions. So I focus on that in my coaching.
What gaps in a man's personal development do most life coaches fail to address?
I think a lot of life coaches might be action oriented as well, but they're trying to be problem solvers. And so if a client comes to them and says, I have this problem, this is what I want to address, the coach then gets into action trying to help them solve that problem without inspecting how true is it that that's the real problem. And I think where I differentiate from a lot of coaches is I investigate first and foremost how true that statement is from the client. And I try to get to what's really, really true for the client and connect them with that. And then we can move forward and start to solve problems.
Why do many men resist self help or coaching, and how do you break through that?
Sorry, why do many men
Resist.
resist?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's because we think we need to do it ourselves, and we don't know how to ask for help, or more importantly, we don't know whom to ask for help. So we don't do a good job asking for help in two ways. A, we put it off too long, and B, when we do ask for help, we're asking the wrong people. Like we might ask our buddy at the bar or somebody who's just not qualified to give us the help that we need. You're better off seeking out people who have already accomplished the things you want to accomplish and asking for their help in getting there. And also, you should be talking to someone on a regular basis, whether it's a coach, or a therapist or whatever you want to call it, having a regular outlet for your own thoughts where you hear out loud what's going on inside your head is incredibly important.
Mr. Maxim, how do you balance accountability with compassion in your coaching style?
So, coaching is about action. So, I'm always pushing my clients to turn their insights into action. At the same time, we have to meet our clients where they are. So, if a client isn't ready to take a particular step, I don't try to push them to take that step. I do challenge my clients and push them to get the best out of themselves. But if a client tells me, no, I'm not ready to do that right now, I listen to them, I back off, I build trust in that way. Just because someone's not ready to do something now doesn't mean they're never going to be ready. So I'll just wait and it'll come back around.
Mr. Maxim, let's talk about challenges men face. What's the number one issue holding back the men you work with?
The number one issue holding back men that I work with is just authenticity. I think there's a lot of perception of how men are supposed to be. I mean, if we're talking about men in the United States today, we're kind of in this in between phase where the old concept of a man doesn't fully apply anymore, but we haven't figured out what the new vision of being a man in society today means. And a lot of the principles are still the same, but the way they manifest in our everyday lives are going to be different. The world we live in today is different from the world 50 years ago or 100 years ago. But the best aspects of man are just as important today as they were back then. In fact, they're probably more important because there's a lot more ambiguity in the world. So basically, helping men relate to their own authenticity, get clear on who they really are, who they want to be, what actions they want to take. There's just a lot of listening to outside voices and deciding how we're going to behave based on that rather than listening to our inner voice. So I teach my clients to identify and trust their inner voice.
Trust. People trust your inner voice. How does societal conditioning sabotage men's growth?
Well, today it it doesn't really promote men's growth. I think men are afraid to be men today because we're afraid to be viewed as too aggressive, toxic. Basically, society today is tamping men down. And if you're a man in society today, it's hard to relax and be yourself because there are a lot of voices telling you that your natural way of being is inappropriate. And, excuse me, I mean, if I'm being honest, there's a lot of men for whom, if they are just being their natural self, it is kind of inappropriate because we haven't taught men how to behave. And I feel like just the concept of decency is not as strong as it used to be. So I feel like, on the one hand, men are afraid to relax and be themselves. And on the other hand, when they are relaxed and acting like themselves, they kind of prove why society doesn't want them to be themselves. So we have to do a better job of teaching things like discipline, honor, and decency, because if we have those principles, if we master those principles in our lives, then we can actually relax and have more fun because we have that backbone of discipline and decency. And we know that our actions are going to be guided by those principles.
Mr. Maxim, what emotional barriers do men struggle to admit, even to themselves?
I think a lot of men don't know their own emotions. They don't know what they're feeling or how they're feeling or even how to approach how they're feeling. You don't always have to know exactly what the name is of how you feel, but you have to know that you're feeling something, and you have to know what it is in your own kind of way, and you have to respect that and act based on that. So what we're really taught to do is kind of ignore our feelings, and that's destructive internally. Conversely, you see a lot of men who are overly ruled by their feelings because they don't have a healthy relationship with their feelings. So we kind of live in two extremes. Either we ignore our feelings entirely, or we get completely immersed in them, and then we don't have like a center. We are floating back and forth as though we're being blown by the wind because our feelings rule us rather than us being masters of our own feelings. So, being a master of your own feelings doesn't mean ignoring your feelings. It just means understanding how you're feeling in the moment. And that allows you to deal with that in an effective way so that you can still get done the things that you need to get done. Because at the end of the day, the best qualities of a man, the best men that you can think of really are consistent. There, there's no good man that you can think of who's not consistent. So, in order to be a good man, you have to be reliable, you have to be dependable. And in order to be reliable and dependable, you have to be consistent. And in order to be consistent, you have to have a healthy relationship with your feelings, because as a man, I have to be able to go out and do the things that I need to do today. I have to fulfill my responsibilities to my family, to myself, to my company, to my society, whatever, regardless how I feel. But in order to do that over a long period of time without destroying myself, I have to also be able to acknowledge my own feelings to myself. It's not about ignoring your feelings, because if you ignore your feelings, that's self-destructive. I have to be connected enough to myself to know how I feel and still get the work done that I need to do, regardless how I feel.
Mr. Maxim, how do you help men who has been labeled too aggressive or too passive transform their energy?
I help them to get in touch with their true selves. If a man, first of all, just because somebody's been labeled something doesn't mean it's true. So one thing I help men do is identify their own feelings towards themselves. So a lot of men are walking around saying to themselves, well, I'm too aggressive because other people have told me I'm too aggressive, or I'm too passive because other people have told me I'm too passive. Well, I help men decide for themselves what they are. And a man can decide for himself if he's being too aggressive or too passive. And that's what you really want. You want men in society who have the capacity to judge for themselves whether they're being too aggressive or too passive, and then act accordingly.
Act accordingly for sure. So, why do men often wait for a crisis before seeking help?
Because we're good at self-denial. We don't know that we're in a crisis until it actually happens. We think we can handle it or get out of it, uh, before it blows up, and then we don't, and it does actually blow up. So that type of behavior is just the result of not being able to, first of all, not being in touch with yourself enough and your own intuition. And so you can't really judge as accurately as possible what's really happening because you're not asking the right questions. And then also having too big a distance between thought and action. So we have this thought, oh, maybe something might be wrong, or maybe I should be doing something better. But then we don't turn it into action soon enough, or maybe not at all. And so nothing happens. And so we don't improve our situation. And when you're functioning on all cylinders, when you're in flow, when you're self actualizing, there's a pretty seamless flow between information coming in, you being able to judge how serious it is or not serious, and then act based on your own judgment. And if you think it's serious enough, you're going to go and seek help or ask questions to get the information and then act based on that information.
Let's talk about the action and transformation, Mr. Maxim. What's your framework for turning insights into measurable action?
You have to mark the insight. When a client has an insight, you have to recognize that it happened. You basically celebrate it, say, hey, that's a great insight. Now, how are we going to turn this into action in our daily lives? And you get clients to commit to doing things that are concrete, that are going to solidify that action in their lives. And then you check in with them about it.
What habits do you teach to build a mental resilience alongside outward success?
It's really about consistency. And I read this more and more often. People who are successful in this world are consistent. And a lot of what that means is having certain routines that you do on a daily basis that are the structure of your day. So I help my clients put together programs for themselves based on their own authenticity and what they need that are just little practices that they do every day. Consistency really is the magic ingredient of success. And so we don't have to do big things. We just have to do little things a lot. We need to do them all the time. Like exercise is a good example. If you don't exercise that much, then maybe you'll go to the gym and spend like 2 or 3 hours in the gym. Then you'll get all sore and you won't go back for like 3 or 4 days. Well, over those 5 days, you've just negated the benefits of that workout that you did on the first day. Whereas if you instead just took a half-hour walk every day for 4 or 5 days, that would be a much better use of the same 2 or 3 or 4 hours than spending it all at once in the gym, because you're building the habit of walking every day. So it's not about doing things all at once. Basically, we tend to do things all at once because we put them off. Well, instead of putting things off and then having to do a lot all at once, I get clients to act immediately, even if it's in small ways, and just instill little habits in their lives that they do every day, but then they're committed to doing them forever. And that's what consistency is.
Yes, people, baby steps and consistency indeed. The ingredients for success. So, how do you help men rebuild purpose after achieving success but feeling empty?
So, one of the things is, if a man has already been successful in his life, even if he hasn't gotten as much fulfillment as he thought he would from it, he's still got those skills. He's still got a base of knowledge and skills and experience that it took to build that success in the first place. So he's got a lot of resources. And if he's able to marshal those resources in a better direction, then he'll get all of the fulfillment that he always wanted. So sometimes it's just a 2% shift in perspective for the man, and he's now heading in a direction that's more true for him, that's more authentic for him, and he's still using all those skills that he's built up over the last 20, 25 years, just now he's using them more effectively.
Mr. Maxim, what's your advice for men who wear vulnerability equals weakness in relationships?
I would say that vulnerability is the only way to really build relationships at the end of the day. And also, you have to know how to use it appropriately. You can't just go around being vulnerable all the time. You have to judge when to use it and with whom to use it. So it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, using vulnerability when it's not appropriate can hurt a relationship. And also, if you have an opportunity to be vulnerable when it is appropriate, but you don't know how, then that also is a missed opportunity that can either hurt a relationship or just not progress your relationship the way that it would. And that certainly is the case in romantic relationships. It's also the case in business relationships. There are times when in business it is appropriate to allow yourself to be vulnerable, whether it's with your clients or associates or whatever, because it builds trust. It shows them that you're human. But you want to be able to judge when the times for that are. There are definitely times when it's not appropriate to be vulnerable, when other traits are more important. So you just have to be in touch enough with yourself and with the space and the people around you. You have to have good situational awareness to be able to make those judgments.
How can men become a better allies to women without losing their masculine edge?
The best thing men can do is be good men. I think that's that's the best thing men can do for women. Women want good men in their lives, and I think they get frustrated because it's hard to find good men. And so women have to do things that they would rather not do because men aren't doing them. So the best way that men can be allies to women is to be good men.
People, be good men, please. And Mr. Maxim, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. Abstract Essay is already in 5th season, Abstract Poetry in 2nd season, and my Book 101 review in 5th season too. Comedy 101 in 2nd season, and my Food 101 in 5th season as well. Geography 101 in 4th season, and my baby podcast, Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in 3rd season, and Movie 101 review and Music 101 in 4th season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its 1st season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Maxim, if men does one thing today to start growing, what would it be?
Well, for one, they can reach out to me at forwardmotioncoach.ing and schedule a session. You can also find me on my YouTube channel at Maxim Shapiro. And also, I would just say, in general, challenge yourself and start immediately.
Start immediately, people. Yes, let's support Mr. Maxim Shapiro, because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering men will come. So, Mr. Maxim, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
More to come, people. See you soon.